Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Mandy and this is just a really quick tumbler tutorial on how to do an ombre glitter tumbler with a cheetah print on the bottom. So the top layer, I'm using a color called Working Girl from Lilly's Glitter Shop. And my biggest tip when you're doing an ombre is when you get toward the line where the two colors are going to meet, hold your cup up a little bit higher, and that's just going to give you a finer dusting of glitter so that your lines can merge a little bit better. So all we're doing now, we have a base layer of epoxy down. Sorry about my messy spinner. And your epoxy is just acting like a glue. So I do have an epoxy mixing tutorial on my channel. Obviously not going to do that on this video because it'll make the video very long. So same concept here. I'm coming up a little bit higher with my glitter toward the center where the colors meet to create kind of a fine glitter base. What I do on the bottom is I kind of just throw it against the bottom until I get the bottom covered. So I kind of fill in the top and the bottom, and then I don't have to worry as much about how gentle I am when I fill it in the middle because I've already kind of created a barrier. So this color is called Millionaire, also from Lilly's Glitter Shop, and it works fantastic for this type of a pour. I have used that color in so many, I said pour, sorry, that's the fluid art. It works fantastic in this type of cup because it just goes with everything. I've done the same cup with a coral top and the Millionaire on the bottom. And it is a beautiful, beautiful holographic, like champagne gold. And so it works great in lieu of a brown color. So coming up next, I'm going to do the decal cheetah print with you. I did use SVG myself. I got the SVG file on Etsy and I cut it with my Cricut. All right, so we had let that glitter spin overnight. Then we put a second coat on, at least, of epoxy and let that dry overnight. We already decaled our name, which on this particular cup was Glamma, for like glamorous grandma. And so now we're going to apply our decals. So I used... I believe I used Sizer Permanent Glitter Black vinyl, which I really like their permanent vinyl. And I got it on Amazon, so I will link that below. I will try to link that below if I can still locate it. And it's Sizer PSV, which I believe stands for permanent something vinyl. And it weeds really well, it comes off really well, and because we had such a sparkly cup, I thought glitter would be better. So as you can see, we're just applying it and I'm cutting it in little sections. So for the ombre line, I'm trying to get as close to a straight line as I can get. So you can see where I'm spacing that out. And it's not perfectly straight across because as you wrap this cup around the edges, your line is going to curve. So I basically cut it into small pieces and did it in about an inch at a time around the top. And then I just filled in those spaces where it needed a little something extra with the extra pieces. So this took me probably over an hour at least. So I substantially sped this up. But you can see I'm just cutting little sections at a time. In my opinion, doesn't mean I'm right about that, but in my opinion, that is far more effective than trying to do it all at one time. Unless you have a perfectly narrow, skinny cup, anytime you have a curve, it's going to be really hard to get a straight line all the way across. And that could be why so many people do these as skinny cups, because then it's perfectly like cylindrical, if that's the right word. But so if you are a tumbler artist and you're going to make these for someone, you need to consider the time that you're spending and the price. I do charge more for these for obvious reasons. For one, making a tumbler is a lot of work and a lot of time and investment. Just making a regular glitter tumbler takes a lot of time. But if you add in how much time it takes to weed this decal after you cut it, not to mention how much time it takes to do all of this, yeah, it's definitely worth charging more for your time. And sometimes your customers are going to understand that, and sometimes they're not. So sometimes you have to explain that to them. Some people do actually do these spots with glitter, but you have to kind of build that up, and the margin for error is a lot higher. But some of them are very cute. So just be aware that there are tutorials out there for leopard spots and cheetah spots where you actually paint the spots on yourself with glitter. That would be a lot harder and a lot more time consuming. So it just depends on what you want to do. But this is definitely a popular cup. A lot of people really like them. I've also made one with a coral glitter top. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how I do the decaling, because it can be a little ominous if you've never done one. All right, so now that it's mostly covered, I'm just filling in little gaps with small pieces. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, a cheetah print is not going to be perfectly symmetrical, but that's kind of what I did. Is when I went kind of inch by inch, I saved the spots that didn't fit right, and then I just would go in and use them. And this is where, you'll obsess and remove things and put some things back, but ultimately, even the tiniest of spots can help fill in the blank. So hopefully this tutorial is helpful for you guys. I condensed it from a ton of filming time to just this little blurb, because a lot of it is seemingly kind of redundant. So you can see that's just one spot, and I just kind of rubbed it on, pulled the transfer tape off. It's a very time-consuming cup, but they're very cute. A lot of people love them. I even do the bottom. So you can see how tedious they can be, though, because, you have to account for each edge, the part where you meet with the pink, and the bottom. You want to be mindful of how you're covering each section of the cup. And the tendency is to maybe overwork it and try to get too perfect of a line, which is kind of what's happening right now. I keep overworking it, and then I'll go back and look at it and be like, no, take that off. So that's kind of where we're at. So I will have a little close-up of the finished cup. After you decal it, I usually let the decal sit overnight so it gets a really good adhesion to the epoxy underneath it. That just helps avoid the chance of the epoxy coat that you put on top, the weight of the epoxy causing your decals to lift. Usually you don't have that trouble if you use like a really good permanent vinyl like Oracal 651, the Sizer PSV. My limited exposure is that it's very sturdy. It sticks very well, very easy to use. Some of your fancier looking glitter, not glitter, but yeah, glitter or holographic vinyl, like definitely the Cricut brand and some others, they will lift under the weight of epoxy if you don't let them get a good stick. So most people will say, let your decal sit at least for an hour before you put epoxy on. I say if you have the time, let your decal sit overnight. if you don't have time, wait at least an hour. But for the most part, if you let it get a good stick, it's not going to give you as much trouble as if you don't. But you can see even the edges are kind of tedious with this process. So I let this sit overnight. I put another coat of epoxy, usually at least 2, to get a smooth edge on the top and on the bottom edge where the glitter has you know, it's kind of chunky, and usually it's not as smooth around those edges. So 1 or 2 more coats of epoxy, and then we'll show you the close-up so you can see what it looks like. But you can see the process, even sped up, is very, very tedious for these. They're very rewarding. They're very cute, very popular cups. But if you are a tumbler creator and you get a request for one of these, understand the time commitment before you quote someone a price. That's my greatest advice for you, because I could do an entire painting, resin it, sand it, and all that, and it would take less time than one of these. Here comes our close-up. And here's our close-up of the finished product. Couldn't be more glitzy. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think.